more names.
This is the only reason I'm on hold, because I want to know if this name means anything. Two-time MVP of the league, Steve Nash.
No.
So,
No.
But
Kenny, Coach Reggie, was he true MVP or was he a sympathy MVP?
No, he was a true MVP.
Over me? Twice?
Oh, get out of here. Hey.
Steve Nash won MVP in 2005. He also won in 2006. Everyone knows this, but did you know that he was also this close to winning MVP in 2007? In that season, Dirk won MVP with 83 first-place votes and a final score of 1,138. Nash was right behind him with a score of 1,013. Only 3 other players have won the MVP for 3 years in a row. Those players were Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain, and Larry Bird. Nash was so close to joining that group. As the years pass by, Nash's MVPs have become quite a controversial topic. People hear Shaq, people hear the media, and they just look at the numbers without any context and claim that there's no way he should have won 2 MVPs, let alone be that close to winning 3. And over time, there's been a lot of misconceptions about why and how he won those MVPs. How's it going, folks? My name's Andy, and today we're gonna talk about a topic that I've gotten a lot of requests for. Did Steve Nash really deserve those MVPs? I'm gonna break down the full details of those years. We gotta understand the context of this situation. Let's go back to the 2003-04 season and see what the NBA looked like back then. The game was very slow. The average pace in the league was 90.1. In the last 15 years, that season had the lowest pace and the lowest effective field goal percentage. Basically, offenses looked very bad. There were a lot of post-ups, a lot of ISOs in general, and a lot of low-scoring games. Teams like the Spurs, the Pistons, and Pacers were the top defensive teams in the league, and scoring 80 points in a game was very common. Now, enter the 2004 offseason, and we see the Phoenix Suns, a team that was near the bottom of the standings and needed some change. Steve Nash was a free agent, and Dallas did not pay him what he wanted, so he signed with Phoenix. At first, everyone thought it was a decent move by the Suns. Their team wasn't going anywhere, so might as well try to change something. At the time though, Nash was a fringe all-star. He was good, but he wasn't that good. Nobody expected that he would turn the entire franchise around, but that's what he did. During an era where the game was very slow and the best teams in the league were grinding it out defensively to win games, the Suns went in the completely opposite direction. Nash and Mike D'Antoni set the standard for the modern NBA offense. With a team of super athletes like Amar'e Stoudemire, Shawn Marion, Leandro Barbosa, and great shooters like Joe Johnson, Quentin Richardson, and later on, Raja Bell and Tim Thomas. The Suns had all of the personnel to be a dominant offensive team. They abused the pick and roll to maximum efficiency, which very few teams believed was a legit strategy, because back then, most teams did not have the spacing and athleticism to make it work. But the Suns did, and man, it was amazing to watch. Nash averaged over 15 points and 11 assists per game on incredible efficiency. But most importantly, he led the Suns to 62 wins, one of the biggest turnarounds in NBA history. Of Nash's 2 MVPs, this 2005 one is the less controversial one. I mean, in most years, the NBA usually goes to the best player on the best regular season team, and that was Nash. Sure, he wasn't the best player in the league, and statistically, he wasn't even top 20 in the league in VORP or box plus minus, 2 advanced stats that predict the MVP pretty well. In fact, both Shawn Marion and Amar'e Stoudemire had a higher VORP than Nash. Nash was also just 8th in win shares per 48 minutes. That's good, but I understand why a lot of people don't agree with Nash winning, because just looking at the stats and the advanced stats, he doesn't seem like the MVP. But you gotta remember, nobody cared about advanced stats in 2005. When you consider the Suns' success and the fact that they brought a revolutionary style of play to the league during a time when it was getting kinda boring with all these slow games, it makes sense why he won the MVP. He was the transition between two different eras, and everyone loved his playstyle. A great team player, unselfish, the model for what the NBA wants in an MVP. The narrative was in his favor. Now, moving on to 2006, this MVP might be a bit controversial. At the time, it was debatable, but not as much as when people look back in hindsight nowadays. Actually, I think a lot of the controversy came from Westbrook winning the MVP in 2017. He put up great stats, broke the triple-double record, but his team only finished as the 6th seed, yet he still won MVP. Everyone saw that and instantly made the connection back to 2006, where Kobe had an amazing season, putting up ridiculous scoring numbers, yet his team only finished as the 7th seed. Some fans are like, oh, Kobe deserved that MVP, look at his numbers, man. If Westbrook won, Kobe should have won back in 2006 too. But this is not a good way to look at it. It's two completely different years, and the MVP criteria changes over time. Kobe was the best player in the league in 2006, but if the MVP went to the best player in the league every year, then Jordan and LeBron would both have like 10 MVPs. It doesn't work like that. Looking back at the 2005-06 season, the voting for MVP was pretty balanced. The votes were really spread out, and nobody knew for sure who deserved to win. There were 3 teams in the league who finished with a better record than the Suns: the Pistons, the Spurs, and Mavs. So why not give the MVP to a star player on those teams? Well, the Pistons and Spurs were 2 teams that, honestly, the media and the general audience did not like. As I mentioned earlier, despite having some great players, some superstars, their playstyle was not appealing to watch, which definitely played a role in their players not getting many MVP votes. The Mavs, also with a better record than the Suns, had Dirk Nowitzki, who had an incredible season, averaging 27-9 and leading the Mavs to 60 wins. He finished 3rd in MVP voting, and in my opinion, I think Dirk had a great case to win MVP that year. The only thing was, with those weird seeding rules back then, because the Mavs were in the same division as the Spurs, the highest playoff seed they could get was 4th, which obviously was changed in the following season because those rules were ridiculous. So even though they won 60 games, they were still only the 4th seed, which probably caused Dirk to lose some votes. Rarely do you ever see a player win MVP if their team is outside the top 3 seeds. And not to mention, LeBron finished 2nd in MVP voting that year. The Cavs finished with 50 wins, but Bron's individual play was absolutely spectacular, with averages of 31, 7, and 7. And then you had Nash. The Suns were expected to not do so well that year because Stoudemire was out for basically all season with an injury. And yet, Nash still led them to 54 wins while averaging a career high in points and shooting efficiency. It was arguably the best season of his career from an individual standpoint. Even without Stoudemire, who averaged 26 points per game in the previous season, Nash still led them to the Western Conference Finals again. The starting lineup on the 06 Suns was all kinds of whack. Marion was still there playing well, but then you had Boris Diaw playing power forward and center. The dude was a backup shooting guard in the previous season for the Atlanta Hawks. Raja Bell was also new on the team, and he had a career season playing alongside Nash. And then you had a 33-year-old Kurt Thomas starting for 50 games and playing center. Yeah, that was the lineup Nash carried to the Western Conference Finals. Of course, these awards are given out before the playoffs start, but it's just more validation for Nash's impact on the team. By the way, if you want to know where Shaq finished in the MVP voting, he didn't even make top 10 this year. He did finish 2nd in 2005 in a very close race. Now, moving on to the 2006-07 season, Nash almost won MVP again. If it wasn't for Dirk and the Mavs winning 67 games, Nash would have won 3 in a row. This time, the Suns finished the season with 61 wins, the 2nd best in the league. Looking at the rest of the NBA landscape, he very well could have won MVP again. That's pretty crazy. So, to sum everything up, I think Nash's MVPs were definitely deserved based on the NBA at the time. Nash's playstyle was something that the voters really liked. The game needed a breath of fresh air from all the ISOs and slow games, and Nash provided that. Additionally, his passing ability, unselfishness, and team-oriented approach was what basketball should be about. I should also mention that it was the perfect situation for Nash to win. Some of the best players in the league like Kobe and Kevin Garnett had mediocre teams, while the new up-and-coming stars like LeBron, D-Wade, and Melo, they weren't in their primes yet. It was perfect timing above all else. And that's all, folks. This Steve Nash MVP debate has been going on for years, and overall, the criteria for MVP is always different. The criticism towards him winning these awards are unwarranted. Anyway, what do you guys think about Steve Nash? I've made a couple videos on him and the Suns before, but there's always mixed opinions on him. What do you think about his MVPs, and what do you think about the MVP award in general? Should team success be valued more than individual success? Let me know your thoughts. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you next time. Peace.